What helped you make the switch from a success-based mindset to a learning one? I played... okay. Actually, that's a long story. That's like my life story. That's kind of my life story. So I grew up from ages 4 to 17 being told I was going to go to Harvard. So literally my entire life from age 4 was kind of structured around that. And then when I applied to colleges when I was 17, I had like straight A's. I did like a million different things, played a bunch of music, shit like that. I got waitlisted at 14 of like we applied to all the top ranked schools, right? So I got waitlisted at like 14 or 12 of them and then denied by all of them. And then this was 10 years ago or 11 years ago. And then the only schools I got accepted at were like my 2 backup schools, which again is probably not a big deal to some people, but you have to consider the fact that like my entire life was structured around that. And I was taught this idea that at age 18, it's kind of like how it like determines the rest of your life. Like you turn 18 and then if you get into a good college, you're set. And then if you don't, you're fucked. That was like the mindset I grew up. And I didn't really like challenge authority as a kid. So I just bought into that belief. Right? So that was my life and that was what happened. At the same time that I didn't get into those colleges, I lost the last student body election, which I really cared about because I was class president for 3 years. And then I also had to like give up working on my YouTube channel. Like I was doing music at the time and I really liked it. I was doing really well. And then my senior recital also went like really horribly. So I had like a string of a lot of failures for things that I really cared about in a very success-based mindset. So that was probably the most difficult thing I'd gone through, which in the grand scheme of life is probably not difficult to some people. But again, my whole life was kind of built on that idea. So when I went to college, I basically kind of autopiloted because I was like, well, no matter how hard I work, I'm going to get like this X amount of result, which is like right below excellence, right? So I might as well not really try and just do what I want to do. So in college, I really didn't do a lot of shit. I just played a bunch of League of Legends and Smash Bros. And like cruised through the education part. And then trying to do that, I was hard stuck. Well, I didn't get out of silver my first year. And then I was hard stuck platinum for 4 years. And throughout that entire process, I was living with the same mindset that I did before, which was like success based. You need to be top X%, otherwise you're not really worthwhile, stuff like that, right? So I spent 4 years in platinum, paying for coaching, studying the game, playing like 12 hours a day, and I couldn't get out of platinum, right? And so I thought, I was like, okay, so I'm kind of just fucked as a gamer. There's not really a lot I can do. How did I get out of that? Well, basically I had those 4 years and I really wanted to hit diamond because I wanted to like stream and like boost for money. So when I couldn't hit it, I was like, okay, you spent the past 4 years trying to live with this same mindset, right? Like this same idea that if you are like very mentally mean to yourself and very harsh on yourself and aren't like I thought fun was for like weak people. Like you're only allowed to have fun if you were like weak. So if you're not having fun and you're like not, you know, enjoying if you are enjoying the process and like not having a good time, then you're trolling, you're not trying hard enough. It was like suffering was part of the formula for success in my mind. Right? So after those 4 years, I was like, okay, great. You've spent the last 4 years trying this experiment, right? This experiment of trying to succeed with this mentality. So only an idiot is going to try the same experiment for a 5th year and think it's going to work, right? Like the definition of insanity type, you know that quote? Like, so I decided, okay, you're in the off season. Your only mission for this season is to not care as much. So whenever you make a mistake, you're not gonna like throw your mouse. You're not gonna like get upset. You're gonna just chill out and like go to the next play. And then I hit Diamond 3 in 50 games. So after that, I was like, oh, okay. So I was trolling this whole time. And now I understand that. And I was always nice to like other people, but I never afforded that patience to myself. And then I understood now that it's like, oh, okay. There really is a balance of like being harsh on yourself for no reason is just as ineffective as like coping. Like if you are like scrub quotes, the scrub quote is just the other side. Like being overly negative to yourself is just the other side of scrub quoting. Like if you can't do anything right, or if you're doing things fine, you're like, oh, I'm ass, oh, I'm ass, oh, I'm ass constantly, which is what I do on the stream, but it's more of a meme, right? I'm not as serious about it as I used to be. It's just the other side of scrub coding where you're like, I can't do anything wrong. It's always the game's fault. The other side is, oh, I'm always doing something wrong. It's never anything else's fault. And both of those are equally bad. So that's how I started arriving at the process of, oh, I should do it because it's fun. I should do it because I enjoy learning. And like, you know, if the task isn't fun, like, why are you doing it? It's a video game, you know? So now, like, yes, I still have my beliefs on what optimal play is, but I also acknowledge that not all of us are like wired for that, right? Like, it'd be really cool if I could play the game like me, but I'm not built for that. I'm supposed to play the game like FDX. And I want to do that as well as I can. And if that means I have to play Lily and Noctis and like all these characters that people think are lame, but I'm having fun, then that's cool. And I think that matters way more because life is way too short to care about anything else. Losing my mind, please God, FDX duck it. So I was unpacking probably 11 years of the most formative experiences in my life to try and teach people why to care less about rank and their results and care more about the results. And your concern is that I wasn't ducking a string? What the fuck? You don't think that if I were just focusing on the game, I could duck that damn string? That's another thing too. I was helping somebody, like somebody asked, I'm trying to coach a friend, but I get so mad every time they make mistakes. And that was something that also confused me. But I also have had friends like that, where like they get mad watching other people be unable to do something when they're trying to help them. And I've started, I think, understanding that as like people who coach for themselves, not for the other person. And yes, coaching is always a bit of both, right? The only reason coaches coach is because they get a bit of satisfaction out of it, right? So of course there's a bit of both. But to that extreme to me never really made sense. And I think what it is just like, again, it's a really focus on that results-based mindset more than the progress, right? Understanding why somebody is messing something up is way more valuable than expecting them to just do the right thing because you coach them. Like, they're supposed to get it. I taught them, you know? It's difficult for people to put themselves in the mind of a beginner once they pass that stage. Yeah, exactly. And that's something I've always valued is like the mindset of a beginner. I remember being a kid and being really annoyed that like adults would laugh at me in certain situations where I was being a kid. Like I would fuck something up because I was a kid and adults would think that was funny. And I was like, I don't think that's very funny because this is my first time here. But you guys get that, I guess. I'm a kid. I gotta hold that. I didn't really like that. So it's probably related to fuck to that. It's oh, here we go. And this is full circle. Now that I gave all this context, this is why I hate people. That's it. This is why I hate people. No. This is why I hate people who are like dick riders for the Dark Souls community, right? I'm not like, so this is why I hate that, okay? And let me explain. This is why I hate this, okay? I love this topic. The Dark Souls dick riding community is not built on the idea of enjoying a game because of the learning process or enjoying the lore or the art. They like that game because of how frustrating it is when they fail. They feel like they succeeded and they want to pass on that suffering, right? And do you know how obvious that is? Look at the tips they drop on the ground. Jump here. Jump here. No, fighting games, you can have fun learning. Dark Souls, the first game in particular, I think Sekiro has done a great job of being different, and Bloodborne as well. But Dark Souls 1 in particular, because I only played 1 and then I watched like somebody, I played like a bit of 3, right? The game is not built on the idea of learning. The game is built on the idea that you're supposed to fail enough times to have seen everything. So it sounds like you need to get good. No, and this is what I'm saying. I have no problem playing a hard game. I have no problem playing a hard game. I can play Mega Man, die a million times, and have fun. It's not the way of learning, and I'm going to explain why. I can play Mega Man. I can play Contra. I can play all these old-ass games that were built to make you lose in order to keep you playing for your monetary value in arcades or buying their $60 chip that was really expensive to manufacture. These old games literally had to trick you into losing, right? They had to really beat the shit out of you. Okay? That was... So these old games, I grew up on these games. Mega Man X, Mega Man, regular Mega Man. Those games are hard as shit. Okay? And they're built in a very similar manner, right? Now, the reason why I like those games instead of Dark Souls is because once you get good at those games, you get to profit on that skill. When you get good at Mega Man, you can play a brand new Mega Man stage and have intuition. Oh, they like to build the platforms like this. Oh, this enemy pattern is kind of like this. I can kind of speed run my way through a new Mega Man level because of the skills I developed playing the previous levels, right? If I focused on getting good at what the designers wanted me to get good at, then I could see skill development. And in Dark Souls 1, that is not the case. That is not the same in Dark Souls. That is not the same in Dark Souls. If you guys are not, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation. There is a difference between memorizing the pattern of the enemy you're fighting and memorizing game intuition that the overall game teaches you. And this is a similar thing that people have with Tekken. People say in Tekken that everything is a knowledge check, right? And in Tekken 8, it's actually more true than it was before, to be fair. Tekken 8 is actually more of a knowledge check than before. But if you play Tekken Tag 2, Tekken 6, Tekken 5, Tekken 8, or sorry, Tekken 7 in the beginning, you can start to develop intuition for high and low strings and high and mid strings. For example, that Reina string, the 4 things into the high kick, I didn't know that last hit was a high. So if you watch that whole first game, you would see, if you watch that whole first game, you would see that I didn't duck a single of the high strings, right? I'm going to pull up Reina now and demonstrate. Look at this. So what was Reina doing over and over and over again? And I promise this is all related. And by the way, I think FromSoft makes genius universes. The lore and the genius behind their level design, the atmosphere, the zero direction style gameplay, I like that. That shit is good. I was specifically talking about the community, okay? But let me continue explaining. Reina had this string that she kept doing over and over again. I think it's Sting the Works. This move. I had no idea this last hit was a high. I had no idea. What did I do? First thing I did is I tried to punish her. And you can block it normally. And after I tried the whole first game to punish her, I realized, oh, it's safe. No strings in Tekken have this many hits and are safe. So the last hit must be a high. And then I ducked it and launched it. That is intuition built over experience and skill development. That is what I'm talking about. I did not lab this string. I did not know the frame data, but because my jab punish wasn't hitting, I can understand that ducking the last hit, right? That is skill-based and intuition. Now, let me explain what happened in Dark Souls 1 when I played that game. You fight a new boss, okay? The general pattern of fighting a boss, level design, the level design in Dark Souls for sure. You can develop intuition on, like, what is a fake wall, right? Where are the items going to be? That you can develop intuition on, okay? You can jump certain distances. That's intuition. That's cool. The boss design is always the same thing. When you fight a boss in Dark Souls, it's walk up to them until you trigger their aggro, right? They have different aggro ranges. When you walk up to a certain distance, you're going to trigger their attack pattern, okay? They either have attack instantly with a slow windup, attack twice with a slow windup, attack 3 times with a slow windup. Cool. You have to see those animations and learn it, okay? Now here's the fourth one. They can attack 2 times and then delay and then do the 4th hit. Oh, what does that boil down to from a gameplay standpoint? From a gameplay standpoint, what does that boil down to? What does that boil down to? You know what it is? I wait, or I wait more. Or I wait even more. That's it. Right? That's why Sekiro is so cool. Sekiro is cool because at least you have active gameplay. You can swing at them and then read their retaliation. That's why Sekiro is really cool, because you get to actually interact. Right? It's a negative. It's a negative for me because people are saying that shit is hard. That shit is not hard. That shit is a time sink. That shit is a time sink to and say, for example, you memorize boss 1's pattern, right? The whole appeal of boss number 2 is my animation is a little bit different. You just said Tekken is the same, and I literally just proved an example why it's not true. I literally just gave you an example of how you can develop intuition of why that's not true. So if you don't believe me here, I'm sorry. That's all I have to say. I literally just gave an example why. Okay? So, the difference with Dark Souls is not only, like, the whole point of Tekken is you get past those strings. You get past those strings, you develop the skill, and then you move on. And then they give you new things to interact with. So people are saying Melania is the anti-Dark Souls, or like the anti-Soulsborne pattern. I didn't see that boss fight, so I can't comment on that, and I'm not going to slander something I can't comment on, right? I'm specifically talking about Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1, you clear the first boss, you're like, great, there's this pattern of roll, wait, attack, roll, wait, attack, cool. The next boss is either the same thing or learn their new animation, okay, cool. Then you run into a boss where they have like a one-shot pattern, right? Where they do roll, attack, roll, attack, roll, attack. You actually clear a bit, you clear like halfway through, and then they have this one-shot thing that you have to survive. And usually you're not going to know it's coming because you've never seen that boss, you've never seen that animation. So what do? You die to it and then walk all the way back. Okay, cool. What does this boil down to? Most of my gaming experience in that game was walking back to the boss fight. At least in Sekiro, I can fight my way back to the boss fight, right? I can fight the boss. I can play the game. I'm not playing the game in Dark Souls 1 when I'm walking back to the boss. And walking back to the boss and rolling and walking. It's not a skill issue because I can do it. I beat the entire game. The reason why it's not fun is because all I'm doing is rolling and walking. Comparing DS1 to Sekiro isn't fair. No, it is fair because Mega Man 1 was still fun. Mega Man 2 was fun. Mega Man 3 was fun. Now, again, I'm not slandering the world building, the level design, and all this shit. What I was saying is the Dark Souls community loves that feeling. They love the feeling of watching a new player play and say, ha, you got, just like I did. That is the feeling I hate. That is what I don't like. The whole community loves that feeling, bro. They want you to jump off that fucking cliff because they got told by somebody else to jump off that cliff. Stop yapping and turn out some more ranked gameplay. Shut the fuck up, Orange Name. If you play Tekken scrubs, like people who are hard stuck, they'll do the same thing. If you fight people who are actually good at Tekken, they want to teach you. Yeah, they'll have a little laugh if you get got by something, right? Like, oh, you gotta block low and then they hit you mid. Yeah, they're gonna laugh because it's funny. But they're not trying to keep you in that space. They're trying to level you up to the next part so they can interact with you. So they can level up the mind game. They're going to do this and be like, haha, you need to duck. And then hit you with the mid. And they'll laugh one time. And then it's like, okay, actually, though, you need to gauge the risk reward. This and that. What about the PvP people? I can't comment on the PvP because I didn't play it. Right? I'm strictly commenting on the idea that Dark Souls is a hard game because you die a lot. Right? I'm not going to comment on PvP because I didn't play it. So it's not fair of me to give a criticism on something. Is that All Might? The community argument does not land for me all. You were just talking about constructive and destructive behavior. In my opinion, this is present in most subcultures. Sure, that might be my bias. I can acknowledge that. I can acknowledge that maybe my experience is unique in that sense. I can acknowledge that. Just like if for me, Tekken has been a very positive community experience and some people have had really negative ones. So I think that's fine. But I also think that it is hard to deny that the very first Dark Souls game is built on that design pattern. Oh my god, wait, I'm dead. I'm pretty sure it is built on that design pattern of fuck you, you tried to learn a pattern, eat a dick. And Tekken does have some of that. Tekken will have some of that. I'm never going to deny that Tekken doesn't have that. But the lack of interaction in the intuition building is where I have the problem. Especially those one-shot patterns, right? The Paul Phoenixes of the Dark Souls bosses are really fucking annoying. I did not feel that all in Dark Souls 1. Tekken 8 is my first Tekken, and I feel the knowledge checking a lot more. I'm not gonna lie to you, Tekken 8 is a way harder game than Dark Souls 1. Tekken 8 is a way harder game. And unfortunately, there's no way I can sugarcoat that. It's a PvP game. They have intentionally made a lot of the Tekken things harder. Also, if you are a Dark Souls 1 player, you cannot play passively in this game. If you are the type of person who thrived at like, and that was me. In Tekken 7, I was a backdash player, right? So I was very defensive, wait and see what happens and react. You can't play that way in Tekken 8. And that's why Tekken 8 is so hard for so many people. If you come from Soulsborne culture, Tekken 8 is one of the hardest things to play because you cannot sit there and wait. You have to attack. One of the, like, look at me. I'm defending. I'm losing. I have to attack and I have to be correct. And that's really hard. That's really hard in a Tekken game. What was I talking about before this? I was talking about learning over results. Yeah. Anyways, maybe the editor could take out the Dark Souls rant. I hate every time I do this conversation. It's just annoying. Yeah, and part of the thing about the like success versus learning-based mindset is it's important to recognize if you're having fun in the activity where you are engaging in the learning-based mindset. So some people will engage in a learning-based mindset, what they think is a learning-based mindset in like Tekken, but they don't actually like the game. So it's not worth doing. If you don't like Tekken, don't do it. Like, that's why I flame Dark Souls, is because I don't like doing it, but that's why I don't play the game. You're not going to hear me do this rant and then boot up the game and then complain more. The only reason I would ever play Elden Ring is to just prove myself right, and people won't believe me anyways. So there's really no point for me doing it. And I say prove myself right, not in the sense that like I'm right about this game objectively. It's like I'm right about the way that I enjoy games, and it's going to disagree with the people who do enjoy those games. And ultimately, just like music, I don't think it's worth coming after people for the stuff they enjoy. Just stop trying to get me to enjoy it.